The Knicks are officially eliminated from the playoffs. They lose 125 to 108 to the Indiana Pacers to lose these conference finals. Not a pretty game, but we're going to talk about it regardless because that's our job right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And he's Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster and Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And today, we're, of course, talking about the Knicks losing to the Pacers 125 to 108. The Knicks season is unfortunately over. But first, we wanted to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And before we get into it, let's just thank you all for the final time of a Knicks recap pod for making Locked On Knicks first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit the auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode, because contrary to what plenty of other pods will probably do and what we would maybe do if we weren't so dedicated to you guys, we will be here for you guys still with many pods per week, talking about the draft, talking about the offseason, talking about everything else that is going to go on between now and October, in case there was any doubt in your minds whatsoever. So make sure that you're subscribed and have notifications on and all that good stuff. But Gavin, the Knicks season is over. We thought maybe there was a chance they could pull this one out. I thought certainly through the first half, I was like, you know what? They're keeping the Pacers enough at bay. The Knicks were not shooting well. So I thought, hey, if they turn the shooting around, they're only down by 4 at half. I think they were playing well enough on defense in the first half. And then the Pacers, as they're wont to do, just completely blew the doors off this one in the second half. The Knicks coverages got worse. So their defense was just horrendous, especially in the third quarter. And the shots did not, as it turns out, start falling for the Knicks. They end up shooting overall just a woeful shooting splits for this game: 47.7% from the field, 28.1% from three, and 65.4% from the free throw line. Just absolutely disgusting. Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I'll let you choose where to start on this game here.
Yeah, this is like a terrible version of Pick Your Own Adventure. I've made the analogy before, but it's Oregon Trail, where no matter what path you pick, you die. But on that happy note, I think to me this game is defined by the Knicks stars not showing up. Feels harsh, but I'm gonna maybe put it that way. I think Karl-Anthony Towns is where my mind goes first. I think the Knicks would have had a dramatically better chance to win this game if he didn't play. I don't blame him for playing. I think that's ultimately on Tom Thibodeau to make that decision. Offensively, he was not incredible in this game, but he was good enough, right? 22 points in 38 minutes, living at the free throw line, even though he only shot 6 or 10 from there. His efficiency was limited by the fact that he went 0 for 4 from 3. Still was 8 of 19 overall, 22 points, 14 rebounds. The defense was just completely untenable, both in the half court and in transition. Indiana piles up 25 fast break points in this game after the Knicks really kept them down last time out. And Cat was there were plenty of issues to go around, and we'll get to Jalen Brunson's culpability in that. But I think Cat is kind of your number one target if you're going to talk about it. He on a bum knee, so I question, after ripping Julius Randle a new one when he ultimately needed ankle surgery in that 2023 Heat series, I'm a little reticent to just toast Cat when he's clearly playing through an injury. But my God, the guy did not get back. It was 5-on-4 against one of the greatest transition teams in NBA history every single time. And that is just death. And where Cat does have direct responsibility is we saw this going back to, I think it was in, I want to say game 4, where he was just leaning forward for an offensive rebound and it led to an Indiana run out. You just see that over and over again, where for someone who is so slow and is not moving well, you would think like all their energy would be, all right, I need to start going back early. If I'm not around the rim, if I'm not crashing, if I'm not the one shooting, like those plays you can excuse a little bit. But when he's on the arc, like he is just never leaning back. He's never going back. I think the Knicks are generally fairly poorly coached in that respect because they like knowing Indiana's going to do that. They very rarely have safety valves. And even when they did have safety valves, Indiana was just faster, getting down the floor, more athletic, more tenacious, playing a little bit harder in that respect. I asked Tony East, I said, was this different against the Bucks and the Cavs? And he said, no, they were just as bad. So take everything I'm saying there with a grain of salt. The half-court defense, Alex, I think might have even been worse for Cat. Like basically anytime they put him in the action, someone was getting an open layup. Someone was getting an open three. There were just inexplicable communication gaps. Like there was an inbound where he's guarding Siakam. OG ANunoby says something to him. Cat just kind of wanders away. OG doesn't move up. Pascal hits a three. Literally the next play, he switches onto Nesmith in transition. And then he just kind of goes down and tries to scram Brunson out of a matchup on Turner. It's a Nesmith three. Like over and over and over again, you just see Cat involved and like either just wandering off, not paying attention, or just not in the right spot. And it just led to a bunch of easy buckets for Indiana. Jalen Brunson was inefficient on offense. His turnovers led to a bunch of Indiana points. For the sake of me not talking this entire first segment, I'll throw that to you if you want to talk about him or if you want to expand on Cat. But I think this was just a nearly impossible game to win when the Knicks' two best players played the way they did.
Yeah, I'll close the door on Cat, I guess, just by saying like some of it could have been excused, I guess, if he was having like a supernatural offensive game, but even that was just everything that's been going in for him lately, every layup around the rim, every drive, every whatever that he's been, largely making lately just did not go in. And that certainly didn't help matters. Like if he had dropped 40 in this game and the Knicks ended up winning it or it was really close or whatever, then you say, whatever, I guess we could live with the defensive deficiencies to a degree because he kept them in it offensively. But, as it turns out, I mean, just a woeful shooting game for him, like 8 of 19 from the floor, 0-4 from three. So couldn't get anything going from there. Granted, whatever, some of that's the scheme and the fact that the Knicks just don't ever look to get him involved with shooting threes. And Cat kind of just has to shoot like weird heat checks all the time. But then 6 of 10 from the free throw line too was pretty inexcusable. I mean, his free throw shooting was terrible. I'm with you. I certainly empathize with him as someone who also has bad knees in his, 30s. Like some days when your knees aren't feeling good, you just can't do it. But, I think that it would have been on, this is again, I feel like it'll be a consistent theme maybe throughout this episode, throughout this whole offseason, depending on what the Knicks end up doing. Like a lot of this comes back to Tibbs and never being willing to identify when something's not working or someone's having an off game and sub them out, even though it's the tough decision. Like I think there were a lot of times where just having Mitch out there with, all the shooters would have been more beneficial, or even Mitch out there with the rest of the former starting lineup instead of Cat, like could have been beneficial in this game. But, Tibbs pushed those buttons way too late in this game. Like they were already down by double figures and, things were not looking good by the time he finally gets Mitch in. And, it was like Mitch had a great first half. Having him potentially close when you can't hit a shot makes a lot of sense because he gets you second, third opportunities all the time. So I don't understand why Tibbs waited so long to push that button. But also it doesn't help that Brunson just, I mean, for as on as he was in the last game, he was equally as off in this game. Just could not get by the defense that the Pacers were playing on him, which it was Nembhard more in this game than Nesmith. Nembhard was all up in him for like the whole game, and they had a couple tussles. There was one where, Nembhard just kind of blatantly like pushed Brunson and then was confused why he got a foul called on him. There's another one where Brunson coming down the floor to create a little space, like throws a little headbutt into his chest. Like just a lot going on. In terms of how that matchup played out, but clearly, they got under Brunson's skin. The Knicks also, I don't think were as creative in setting up scenarios to get Brunson the ball in this game as well to shake that defense. Like I thought there was more, so that there was still the, having McHale bring the ball down, having Hart bring the ball down, whatever. and they were doing that. But then it seemed like all that they were trying to do is just free Brunson up on the perimeter to receive the pass, rather than last game where they kind of caught the Pacers off guard by having Brunson like cut off an off-ball screen and get in that way, or just in general use an off-ball screen, get it, and then work with the defense tilted already. There was just none of that in this game, or at least very little of it compared to the previous game, and I don't fully understand why they didn't go to that more. Granted, it also didn't help that, like, I thought that in general, especially, again, I don't want to pick on the guy, but like from Cat, the screens were horrendous in this game. Anytime that he went to set a screen, he was avoiding the contact like the plague. And that was, again, very different from how he was in game 5 just a couple days ago. So that's part of it, and that's part of why I think Brunson also wasn't able to get free as much as he maybe wanted to, and why Nembhard was able to just get around those screens as much. But still, Brunson has a rep of being one of the best one-on-one scorers in the game. He has toasted Nembhard before in the past. And he did it all of last playoff, certainly. So it I don't know. Something just seemed off with him as well. He didn't seem quite as, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. He just didn't have that it factor in this game. And as a result, I mean, he has, as much as I just said, Cat had a bad shooting game. Jalen Brunson, 8 of 18, 2 of 7 from 3, just 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Didn't seem as adept at getting inside and getting free throw opportunities, which is certainly a big part of him being able to have big scoring games. And, as a result, he ends 3rd on the team in scoring for this game, which, again, not something you probably thought would happen.
Yeah, a weird game where he like relatively does not empty the clip, right? Not that, I mean, 18 shots in 34 minutes. Like Jalen Brunson, you typically, what defines him as a top 10 player in the NBA, which if you look at the totality of this playoff run, I think it's tough to argue that he's not, is that you feel Jalen Brunson in big games, in big moments. You look at the first quarter of game 5 against the Pacers, where he is just far and away the best player on the court, and he is dictating everything. But even when he's missing shots, like, he finds ways to get to the free throw line, typically only gets to the free throw line once, shoots 1 for 2 from there in this game. To your point, early in the game, I actually thought they were doing a decent job running him off screens. Like his first 2 buckets of the game is him turning the corner on a Mitch ghost screen for a lefty layup. And then there was a play that I was like, I was actually thinking about you while watching it. I was like, man, this is what Alex is always asking for, where he runs off both the Cat screen and a Mitch screen. Nesmith is trailing like by the time he gets the ball, and Brunson just shoots in and gets a layup. And it was like fun to see them lean into him more off the ball. And then that just sort of that pace, the play calling, which I think has been a shining area for Tom Thibodeau in this Pacers series. Like the one thing I'm not going to knock him on is like, I think he's called a lot more actions. There's been more organized offense than there was in the regular season. The Knicks have largely been pretty successful on those. What the Knicks just couldn't survive was like the turnover fest. Like this is between the second, third, and early fourth quarter. Like here are the plays he made that led to Pacers transition buckets. There was an entry pass to OG that was just off, and it led to a transition jam. Dribbled off his foot on a drive, led to a Hallie transition jam. Drive, tried to dump it off to Mitch. The pass came like in too much traffic. Nembhard catches up, steals it. Siakam lay on the other end. Throwaway trying to hit McHale on the short roll after he missed McHale on a short roll for a layup when he was wide open about 2 plays earlier. That led to a Nembhard 3, and then he was doubled at midcourt. That was kind of on Shaman for not getting out of the way, but he had his pocket picked, and it was another layup. Like he did some good stuff down the stretch of this one, setting up a McHale 3, hitting the step back on Nembhard, but man, it was just too little, too late, not enough force, not enough aggression, like weirdly like lethargic, I think is probably the word I would use for Jalen Brunson this game. And that's stunning because, again, sometimes you'll see him in these games go whatever he was in game 6 last year, 14 of 31, shooting 8 of 18 feels weird and maybe indicative of a game that just sort of felt weird throughout. We'll get into some of the vibes. We'll get into OG ANunoby having a big night. Maybe we'll look forward a little bit. All that next in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's incredibly easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop managing your money and you start building wealth. They offer surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I save more. They offer all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And they offer easy collaboration. This is incredibly cool. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts. You can set goals goals, and you stay on the same page without all the stress. And trust me, it can be incredibly stressful if you don't have something helping you out. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, what's up, guys? We are back on Locked On Knicks. Alex, a weird game. To your point, the Knicks were able to stick around, got it to 58-54 at halftime, mostly thanks to OG ANunoby, who was just spectacular, getting to the rim over and over again in the second quarter, hit the step-back jumper to beat the second quarter buzzer. And then it felt like there was a rope and the Knicks were holding on. And even though Indiana was kind of dictating pace and it felt like a Pacers type of game, it did feel like there was a window there for the Knicks to get hot and potentially find a way to send this thing back to New York. And then just, I don't want to say a total no-show in the second half, because I thought Mikal Bridges had a really nice third quarter, and I was impressed with him relative to just like the blech, maybe is the better way to say it. Like he's been throughout most of the series. The Knicks had that 8-0 run led by Mikal that cut it to 78-71. Pacers immediately respond with a 9-0 burst of their own. Deuce hits a 3 that seemingly cuts it to 9. Phantom at a balance call, maybe in super slow-mo. He stepped on the line. I couldn't really tell. Obi comes back down, hits a 3 on the other end to push it to 15. And the Knicks had their mini runs like early fourth quarter. They had their stretches. Cat, Josh Hart making a couple of plays. Just never really felt like it was a game in the second half.
Yeah, it really didn't. And, I guess if those who want to, play the minutes load took its toll on them, I don't know. I don't think that's the case, but it certainly looked like that was it. I guess even though the Knicks have been playing a much longer rotation for the last few games, if you would have told me that it was like, oh, all these guys have been playing, 45 minutes for the last 5 games, I would have believed it, because it just kind of looked like the wheels fell off.
Yeah.
To a degree. And the Pacers, the wheels didn't fall off. I mean, credit to them in terms of recognizing that the Knicks were a little flat-footed and just going all out. Like, it seemed like the Knicks had done a decent enough job at stymieing the leak outs and all that in the last few games, that the Pacers were going to it less. And it almost felt like they kept it in their back pocket of like, we'll save this for when we need to close out a game when they're not expecting it. But then, as usual, the Knicks just, you alluded to this a couple minutes ago, but the Knicks just didn't have a plan to deal with all those leak outs. Like, they weren't sending someone back to, tag whoever was leaking out for the Pacers. And it's just like over and over and over again, you're running into a situation where it's like only like Jalen Brunson on the other end, because he was, away from the rebounding area. Like, so he kind of would leak back out, but it's like Jalen Brunson one-on-one with Siakam or like Obi or whatever. And it's like, that doesn't work. That's just never going to result in a result that you want, save for maybe like one time where maybe he manages to get his feet planted and draw a charge. Otherwise, that's not a matchup you want in transition. And preferably you could just eliminate the transition in general by telling like Mikal Bridges, for example, who like is never going to be super involved in trying to get the defensive rebound, like tell him, or the offensive rebound, I should say, tell him like, hey, you're the free safety. You got to leak back there and make sure that nobody does anything. Because he's the one guy that I think has had the most success of defending transition of all the Knicks in terms of, being able to get a chase down block, or just in general stop someone short of getting to the rim when they thought that they had it easy. And yet, this is just something, again, that we see that Tibbs didn't really have them prepared for, or that there wasn't like if that was Carlisle lifting the glass case and pushing the red button, like Tibbs went to look for his red button and there was none. It's like,
or it was Josh Hart, which was not the right red button.
Or the red button was Josh Hart, which is the go nuclear option, I guess. But yeah, let's shift it positive just for a minute so we can talk about OG, like you alluded to. 24 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He shot 10 of 18. He couldn't get it going from 3 either, but nobody could really, other than Landry Shamet. But I liked that he leaned into his best self, which was just bullying the hell out of guys with Nesmith not on Brunson. They put Nesmith on OG for a number of possessions, and a number of possessions he just straight big boyed him, like took him all the way inside, finished right over him. He was finishing with gusto, as Clyde might say in this game, at the rim, and really using all that strength. Also defensively, just a demon. I mean, if you want to talk about guys that were trying to keep the Knicks in it in the second half, like he gets a huge block on a corner three that he like just barely managed to get his fingertips on. Well, I say that, but he got like 3 full fingertips on. It was enough to like make the shot not go towards the hoop anymore. And so had a huge block on a corner three, another just crazy block on Siakam. And unfortunately, that was when things were getting a little out of hand anyway. And that was like the one shining light amongst those moments. But like just Siakam thought he had it going inside, and OG just, it looked like he was going to end up fouling him, but he just got the perfect hand on the ball and just completely denied Siakam being able to even bring the ball up. So that was sick. A couple big steals, a nice transition dunk in the second half as well, while trying to, keep these guys afloat. And yeah, I mean, props to him. I think OG came to play in this one. Say whatever you want about other guys on the team or whatever, but OG definitely had elimination game energy, and it unfortunately nobody else really was able to match what he was bringing.
Yeah, I think this is maybe the first time I've realized this, but I think OG ANunoby is probably my favorite Knick right now. Like as much as people listening probably think it's Deuce or maybe Mitch, but like I am just a big believer in the guy, and I think when he's at his best, like he is just the consummate not taking anything off the table, dude, like in his best case scenario. And you could argue the 3-point shooting has been what's been off the table, as he's now 4 for 21 over the final 3 games of the series, which just is not enough to cut it. And like under stress, sometimes you see it with him, even and Mikal a little bit too, but I think particularly with OG, like where his mechanics just break down under duress, under the weight of playing like a ton of minutes over a ton of games. And that is an issue for the Knicks, because I think for them to win a championship, it won't be this year, but down the road, they're going to need him and Mikal, assuming those guys are both on the team, to be like bona fide, very good, if not great 3-point shooters. And neither one of them were that throughout these playoffs. And that's something we have to discuss throughout the offseason and like the cascade effect of that. But my God, to your point, like his ability to just turn on that bully ball mode, like over and over again, gets the rim. My single favorite play of the game, maybe outside of the Mikal to Mitch lobs, which were a lot of fun, was OG setting that pin and screen for Shamet, and then Shamet rising up for 3, and OG just intuitively like rolling off it, and Shamet actually making that jump pass to him over the top for a dunk. Like that is just kind of like the intuitive, beautiful basketball that we saw at times for the Knicks earlier this season, but now that defenses are guarding them the right way, we don't really see anymore. So that was just a cool moment. And then him like just willing the Knicks back in the second quarter, being like, nah, I'm not letting go of the rope, over and over again, to your point, getting to the rim, like having that play on defense where he dove on the floor, ripped the ball away from TJ, threw it off Pascal Siakam's foot. It was great stuff. Like even the play got blocked, he gets it back, goes to the rim and gets free throws. Like he just had really big moments in this game. And if the rest of his team had been serious and had showed up, I think this could have been a game that goes down in Knicks history. Like, because he could have had 30 if he was playing seriously down the stretch of the fourth quarter of this one. So that's a bummer. We can get into Mitchell Robinson a little bit because he played pretty well. We can get into some of the rotation questions because, my God, I still have a lot of them, even on a night. I guess give Tom Thibodeau credit. Only 22 minutes for Josh Hart. He pushed a little softer on the nuclear button than he had been. But just not enough guys outside of OG ANunoby brought that level of intensity, the level of focus, that level of just being unwilling to lose. We'll get into it in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. So we're going to have a lot of time as we welcome you guys back into Locked On Knicks to break down what ultimately went wrong in this series. I think it is just very difficult to win when you play dumb basketball against a team as smart and precise as the Pacers are. And I think the Knicks played a lot of dumb basketball in this series on both ends of the floor. If I was going to have a unifying principle of why they lost, it's that, and maybe a reason the basketball is dumb was just like a lack of coherent identity. While Indiana offensively has about as clear-cut of an identity as any team in the NBA, and the Knicks, like sometimes stuff works, Alex, but it just feels like they're throwing stuff at the wall and they'll ride the coattails. Like even Landry Shamet the last few games, that felt kind of random and it worked. And Tibbs, to his credit, stuck with it. But that wasn't the plan. That wasn't how you played all season. That wasn't a guy you trusted for the most part all season. And I kind of keep coming back into that in terms of why they lost. Obviously, 18 turnovers don't help. Allowing 25 fast break points does not help. Allowing 4 different layups off of made baskets is generally not good. Allowing 1.7 points per possession, I think through the 3.5 quarters of this game on missed Knicks layups, Indiana scored 1.7 points per possession. According to Owen Taylor, they scored 1.3 points per possession off live ball turnovers. Like, none of that works, but there just doesn't always seem to be a plan with this team. I don't know if you want to go more specific or if you want to finish broader on this game, but that's just sort of what's sticking in my mind right now.
No, for sure. I mean, I think that I think and we'll beat this dead horse more throughout the offseason, I'm sure too. But what it really comes down to is like Tibbs had a month and a half, 2 months almost with almost no like uh, uh,
Stakes.
no stakes. Yeah, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Like nothing that they had to really win for. You know what I mean? Like they were so locked in that as long as they played like 500 ball for the last 2 months, they were fine and would end up the 3 seed. And so it all just comes down to trying things on the fly in the playoffs that you didn't try during the regular season. It just isn't good business. Like it's just you're forcing your team to learn on the fly on the biggest stage. I mean, even to the point of look, we knew already that Cat, struggled with this offensive or sorry, with this starting lineup on the defensive end. You know, the fact that Tibbs did not try double big really in earnest before the playoffs, or the fact that he tried it but did it when Mitch was still out and did it with Huck Porty more in preparation of Mitch coming back than he did once Mitch actually came back, just is one of the ultimate indictments on Tibbs, because I think we saw at times the double big lineup was I, I don't want to be totally a hyperbole here, but I think a championship caliber starting front court, they were along with OG ANunoby. I think that there were moments where you watched that and you said these guys they could potentially do this. They could potentially go all the way. But then there were so many moments where you realized that they just didn't fully know how to play with one another because it wasn't practice. And whatever. If you want to, we'll probably do a little more of a breakdown this week on the article that The Athletic put out, Fred Katz and James Edwards, about um what was going on in the Knicks locker room or whatever. And one of the big things in that was Cat apparently kind of going rogue with his defensive coverages sometimes and not doing what the rest of the team was doing. I think you could kind of see that, but I also think that there were times where it seemed like the game plan was for Cat to play drop or whatever too, because I think the Cat was pretty enthusiastic on embracing switches when they happen, because I think that's where he understands as well as anyone, he works best in either a blitzing capacity or a switching capacity, in terms of, being able to defend someone versus if you have him in situations where he has to read and react to 3 different things on defense, he's going to get overwhelmed. And we've seen that time and time again. And yet, it seemed like even in this game, from the word go, it seemed like they were back to kind of being let's try drop again. And it's drop has not worked and hedging has not worked. This is a team that is just full of shooters and can get hot in 2 seconds. And yet here we are again watching Cat be 6 feet, inset from the 3-point line as a guy is just casually pulling up for another 3 that he ends up making again. And look, I'm not going to say that there also wasn't some shooting. I don't want to call it fully luck, but did anyone have on their bingo card Thomas Bryant shooting 3 of 4 from 3 from the corners? No.
That was
And
rough.
and I don't fault them for those shots ending up open, because why would you defend that when you could potentially set up for the rebound that you figured was probably inevitable at that point? And then Nemhard, for example, started off slow in this game. It seemed like he was kind of turning back into a pumpkin finally, shooting from 3, where he's been shooting way higher than he did in the regular season, all postseason. Then he ends up shooting 2 of 5 by the end of the game. So there were some backbreaker things that happened, that, you can't really account for, but there were so many things you could have accounted for that were just not addressed. And, that was in just single game prep for this, but also, again, I think just a overall encapsulation of probably the biggest part of the Tibbs problem, which is lack of experimentation, lack of preparation, or lack of preparing, regardless of how many times that he watches the tape or whatever, lack of preparing his guys to play with each other in multiple different configurations to try to throw a monkey wrench in the other team's plans and win a game. So yeah, not to get too existential because we'll have plenty of time for that, but that was just where my brain was going through much of this game. And it just, by the time the final buzzer hit, it wasn't surprising to me that they ended up losing this game, because it was just kind of an encapsulation of a lot of the worst things that we saw from this team on this run.
To that point, very for stuff we've both been saying, I think painful but satisfying quote just to hear a Nick acknowledge it, because these guys in media, I think stemming from Tibbs, stemming from Jalen Brunson, are like at times positive to a fault, maybe outside of Josh Hart and sometimes OG ANunoby. But Deuce McBride after the game said, quote, "Losing this game, we felt really confident coming in overall this season. It felt like a lot of stuff throughout the year got exposed now." That to me was the summary of my feelings coming into this series, and why I didn't do it, so I can't take credit for it, but was close to picking Indiana. Was just because they felt like the perfect team to make the Knicks feel pain for all the little areas that just never got cleaned up. And you see Deuce acknowledging that. To me, the biggest one, to your point, the lack of lineup experimentation. I like the double bigs. I thought it maybe would have been different if they played throughout the season. I thought it was tough to play them against this Pacers team. Like, because when Indiana could dictate pace and get out and run, it was a little too much to ask both Cat and Mitch to like get back in transition, identify the right guys in transition, switch if they have to, cross match if they had to. Mitch on the other end made Indiana feel a lot of pain, but we'll get into that maybe a little bit later if we have time. The Knicks not playing 5 out is just inexplicable. That's why you trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. That's how you maximize Karl-Anthony Towns. It's why I can't be like too upset at Cat, like even when I hear that defense quote, which makes my blood boil, because I think it is true, and I think Cat is just mystifying in terms of where he doesn't know what to do, or doesn't appear to like care to know what to do at times on defense. And yet, despite all that, the stat from our buddy XJ, the Knicks were plus 15 per 100 possessions this year in 371 possessions where they played 5 out with Cat at center and any 4 shooters. So you could take any combination of 4 shooters on the team. They were plus 15. And I think they could have just outscored Indiana in this series if they leaned into that, but probably only if they played that way all season. And Tibbs like tried every type of lineup and almost never tried 5 out for whatever reason. Instead, it was 22 more minutes to Josh Hart so he could shoot 1 for 6 for 4 points with a turnover and continue to get back cut to oblivion. So that was awesome. Congratulations to everyone involved. What a fall for Josh Hart, guy we were talking about getting all-star consideration earlier this year. Final 2 notes for me. Mitchell Robinson, I thought incredible first half, incredible playoffs. There was a stat out there that what was it like in terms of second chance point, in terms of generating extra chances for his team in a single postseason. This was the second greatest since 1974. He created 51 extra opportunities for the Knicks. Only Ben Wallace on the 2003 Pistons had ever created more. The only other postseason he was ever healthy, Alex, he had the 5th most in NBA history. That stat, incredible stat from Todd Whitehead. Shout out to him. Great Twitter follow. That is insane. I think it's a good encapsulation of what Mitch did. He had incredible rotation to block Andrew Nesmith on a drive at one point. Multiple pick and roll dunks. It took 7 years. The Knicks have finally figured out how to throw lobs to Mitch. Hallelujah. That's incredible. At one point, created 2 extra possessions without even getting an offensive rebound, where he drew a foul and then just had the Pacers knock it out of bounds. There were a million of those this series. Shout out to Mitchell Robinson, man. Proving grounds this playoff. I'll let you talk about it because I've been going too long. But Mikal Bridges, man, extremely weird up and down first quarter where he had a series of incredible plays and also some of the worst plays you will ever see. And that sort of summarized his playoff run. I thought it was a pretty good microcosm. I did think in the third quarter he was great, and him and OG were the only 2 that showed up.
Yeah, you know what? I'll leave that be the last note on Mikal, and I want to close on Mitch too, because I love Mitch.
I don't want to rob you of that.
Yeah, he's always been my dude. Like, it's, if there's one thing that could get me like in my feels about this playoff run, it was that Mitch got to do it, and that's a guy that like really we have gotten to grow up us two as a pair with as like podcasters, right? Like, we both took this show like during his rookie season with Kevin Knox on the team, with him on the team. Like, so we've been there every step of the way with Mitch, whether he realizes it or not. Like,
I don't think
maybe, I don't know, but either way, like, I'm really happy for him. If I can find, the one thing to be super happy about today, It's that he got to be on an Eastern Conference Finals team after being on teams as bad as he was on previously, surviving David Fizdale, living through the 22 to 23 year, obviously going through all the things that he's gone through with injuries, with the getting bad training advice at different points coming into the season, like 40 pounds heavier than he should have, but thinking that was the right thing to do one year in his career. I mean, he's gotten his body to a point where I feel like he is like as strong as you want, as mobile as you want, as everything that you want out of a center in today's NBA. My only thing for Mitch is like this offseason, bro, I think you understand it. Just shoot like 8 million free throws until you can shoot, I don't know, 68% over the course of a whole season from the free throw line. And you're a starting center potentially on an NBA championship team, if the Knicks manage to do this thing right. So, but super happy for him. And I know that he took it really hard too. A lot of the quotes like from him in the locker room, it seemed like he was kind of like head between the knees, like really, really unhappy with the result.
He cared. He not everyone cared on this team, but he
caring, blaming himself for it, whatever. It wasn't your fault, Mitch. I'm here to tell you, I thought that he was phenomenal. That first half, the offensive rebounds he was getting in the first quarter were keeping the Knicks afloat for that whole stretch because they couldn't shoot right from rip in this game, but he managed to keep them in it early and help keep this game close going into halftime. He did everything he could on this playoff run, in this game, whatever. So big props to Mitch. Love that guy. I hope he stays a Knick for life. We're in an era where so few players are on a team for their entire career. I hope that Mitch gets to be one of those guys for the Knicks because, as far as I'm concerned, he's a Knick for life. But anyway, I think we can end right now. We got plenty more existential stuff to talk about, but we still have lots of content slots to fill and not a lot of draft picks to do it over the next few weeks prior to the draft. So we'll be back with plenty more content, plenty more things to talk about in terms of where this team goes from here and all that. But as a last thing here, thank you all so much for tuning in. Those of you that did, I hate tooting our own horn in any way, but I think we had something like 250,000 people tune in this month, or over the course of May while the Knicks were on this improbable run to the ECF. Like, that's crazy. Never in a million years would I have thought that someone would care that much about what we have to say about anything. So thank you all for doing that, for helping us be a success, and we'll keep bringing good stuff to you guys in the meantime. Gavin, I'll let you do an emotional send off too if you want before we close the show.
I don't know how to top that, but I echo all the same sentiments, and I'm like we see those numbers at times, and I'm shocked because those were certainly not the numbers when we first started off doing it, and it's as much as we've been frustrated with them at times, it is a testament to Leon Rose, to Jalen Brunson, even to Tom Thibodeau to some extent, and this team for being in a place where people care. And it's been very cool to me this last week. I've been back in New York and just hearing like people like my sister who were never interested in basketball, my girlfriend who were never interested in basketball, my mom, like checking the score, watching the game, like friends who like would bring up the Knicks like once in a blue moon, like living and dying with every moment, like getting a million texts during each of these games, like saying like, Mikhail sucks. But like, you know what, at least people care. At least people are invested. And it's incredibly cool that like so many of you have gone on that journey with us. Like so many of you listen like to what we always say, like multiple times a week, because there are a million options, and there are so many great options for great Knicks content. Like I truly believe like the people who cover the Knicks, obviously I'm biased and I see more of it, but are just in a completely different category than the rest of the league. Not putting yourself in there, just so many other like incredible great outlets and guests were lucky enough and are kind enough to give us their time and come on and do a great job and give you guys new great information. And you have a million choices, whether it's the Knicks, whether it's TV, whether it's any other sport to follow. Like we appreciate you picking us, and it means the world. So thank you so much. Great season, even if a painful end and some frustrations. A lot of nuance there. Hopefully we can break it down for you guys over the summer. But until then, we'll talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.